What's up, guys? Welcome to the Average American Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Tate. This is the podcast for the average American by the average American. I know normally I talk about political things, what's going on in the news, stuff like that, but, it's kind of been the same for the last few weeks. Trump does this, it's bad, but it's the greatest if you ask him, all that good shit. So I think this week we're going to talk about some personal reflections, some emotional shit that I kind of recognized about myself the other day, and maybe you'll relate to it, maybe you won't. I don't know. Should be a very interesting topic, though, to kind of discuss, and I'm just gonna do it, ad lib here. So I was listening to the episode of Joe Rogan, the most recent one, Joe Rogan Experience. Do it every day on work. Listen to every new episode, and he did one with Jelly Roll, and this was like a couple days ago. And it was just weird, because there were moments and it was very emotional for him. Jelly Roll's lost a shit ton of weight. I mean, which, great for him. That's fucking awesome. Going from 500 and some odd pounds and really making a change for himself. It's shit's hard to do. I know the feeling. Struggled with weight my whole life. I just lost 30 pounds over the last few months. I definitely know the struggle of what it takes to do that and how hard it can be. But I think it's more about the fact that they got towards the end of the episode and then they inducted him into the Grand Ole Opry, and Craig Morgan, who he said was the guy who got him out of jail. If you don't know the story, I recommend going and listening to it. But long story short, he was listening to Almost Home, great song by Craig Morgan, and it kept Jelly Roll going. And as I'm listening to this kind of story, I'm feeling the emotions of it and shit like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm at work, okay, so not the perfect time to be experiencing emotional strife, um, by any means, but uh, I felt myself want to cry, maybe, for him, empathetically, or maybe more sympathetically, but maybe for some shit that I had, repressed. And it's very strange because I get in these places where emotionally I feel distraught and I want to cry and all that kind of shit, and I can't. Like, there's some barrier in my mind that as the tears well up and, I feel that emotion and I'm ready to release and express myself, it just, my mind won't let my body do it. I just couldn't. And maybe it was a product of the moment. Maybe I needed to, you know, go after it a little bit more and maybe chase down that feeling. But I don't know. It's weird when you sit there and think about, am I emotionally broken? And I don't mean in the sense of oh, I can't experience emotions or shit like that. Clearly, I experience emotions, but you could think I'm legitimately scared of vulnerability. Legitimately terrified to be vulnerable. And I think most men, feel that way, which is why we don't like emotional vulnerability, especially. Um, you know, I think it makes people look at you differently. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not going to debate the semantics of the how accurate or correct it is for someone to feel that way about how you process your own emotions. But, your wife might look at you different. Your kids might look at you different. It's a reality. And, when you're vulnerable with people and they throw it back at you, and thankfully, I love my wife and she's not really done that to me, but it's a terrifying situation, and I've seen it happen to a lot of men. I know a lot of men that get broken down by such shit, and they become numb and they just keep it all inside, and that's how dudes go crazy for sure. It all just devolves into anger. It just devolves into being frustrated, which we all go through those moments and stuff like that. But I think there's a great quote that it's by Henry Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau. Anyway, and Joe Rogan has talked about it several times, and I think it's a really important thing to be brought up is that most men live lives of quiet desperation. I find that to be very, very true. That's why I started this podcast. I think that's why I started writing a book. I think that's why I don't want to let myself cry. Um, Emotionally, you close yourself off because you want to feel purposeful. And it's such a tough thing to find. It's such a difficult thing to come in contact with to really get purpose. And you see people that really have it, that really got purpose, which is part of the reason I like watching Joe Rogan. I think he found purpose in what he does, which is great for him. And, it's really good to have it, but most of us don't. Most of us just do the thing. And I think a lot of people, not only because you want to have kids, but I think most people find their purpose in raising a child. And to me, that feels like some kind of scapegoat, maybe. Um, like, oh, I can't find purpose within myself, so I'll create a thing to give me purpose. Now, obviously, biologically, we're just programmed to do that. But the reality is, you can't just like force purpose on yourself. I think you can't just make yourself believe. Um, can't make yourself. I just don't know that you can make yourself find it. It has to find you. Maybe. I mean, try things. Obviously, try shit. Um, there's several things, activities. One of them, stand up. Love that, and I love stand up as a art form. And I, used to do it when I was younger, and I've wanted to get back into it in the last recent years. But location of where I live is just not a good place for getting into stand up. And maybe that's a cop out. If somebody was to come and say, "Oh, that feels like you're limiting yourself, you're copping out, you know, all right." I mean, maybe. But there is something to be said about having a demographic you can work off of, and if you only get 6 people in a bar to listen to your routine, you're not having a good idea of what can work for a larger group of people, what could actually be, um, correct and evident and would make sense. Um, so I don't know. It's difficult to say what exactly, you can do to find your purpose. Because the reality is that a lot of us don't have access to find things that maybe would give us that wholesale sense of being. Um, it requires time, it requires money, it requires dedication. And if you already have prior responsibilities, I'm married. If you're married, you have kids, you got a job, you got all these things. And, I think that's what a lot of people miss, the idea of like the system being built against you. And I think the system is built to keep itself running. Don't get me wrong, it's a self sufficient, self sustaining thing. But it doesn't give people purpose. I mean, work is important. You need a thing to do to contribute, but hobbies should be more accessible. Um, I'm talking about playing video games. I love video games. I'm not talking about, you know, I don't know, fucking watching TV, watching movies. I love all that shit too. But I find these complacent things that like, what do you do with that knowledge? What do you do with that information? And how does it benefit you? And what help are you to someone else? And how is that contributory? Are you writing scripts? Are you making something with that? Are you, doing something that's gonna give you purpose in life? That's sorry, my back's all fucked up in this spot that I'm sitting. I gotta change. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I go to the gym. I do all the things that I find fun and interesting, and spend time with my family. But that's just I think everybody does, even if you've found something you're really good at and you're lucrative and it means a lot, you know. But what's that thing that keeps you pulling, that keeps you going, other than I guess being afraid to die? I guess most of us are afraid to die because we don't feel like we've lived a life worth, living. Like you die, and then you're like, fuck, what did I do? While I was here, I watched a bunch of movies and played a bunch of games, and I fucking bullshitted with my coworkers and this, that, and the other. And that's all fine and dandy. It's all good. You need to appreciate those small moments, and I think it's really important that you appreciate other people, but to really be satisfied, because the reality is that most of those people you're gonna fall out of touch with. I'm lucky enough to have like 4 or 5 good friends that I can talk to on a regular basis, and if I want to play games or do something like that, it's something that I don't have to necessarily struggle with. I have people to talk to, things like that. So I'm blessed to have more than a lot of people do, but we all yearn to be more useful. Build something for your family, build something important, and I just haven't found yet. I started to find it, I thought, or I started to find something I could make myself useful in, and something that had education that I was, excited about. Maybe, excuse me. And I took a chance, a leap, and then I just lost that. So I'm trying to regroup, and best you can do is put your foot forward. But I know what I'm doing now is not the purpose of my life, and I know it's not going to give me the solace that I'm seeking. Um, and I think that so many of us just do a thing, and then we can tell people like, "Oh, I do the thing," I do this thing, and then the thing, and they're like, "Oh, cool, I do a thing," and I don't know. Sometimes it's hard, like, to not think that it's all just kind of bullshit, and like, what are we, you do the introspective life stuff. What are we here for? What's the fucking, purpose? What are we doing? You know? And I think a lot of people struggle to accept that most of us will never really truly find our purpose, and we just kind of go day to day, and we cycle through and fucking keep going, and we're there for the people that need us, and you try to be there for yourself, and that's you tell yourself that's the best you can do. But I think too many of us become complacent, and we don't try enough shit, that's for sure. That's why I'm trying to write a book. That's why I started the podcast. It's why I got into politics, why I started caring about what the future's gonna look like. I don't even have any kids, but the reality is I am against just like a natural injustice towards people that have no ability to protect themselves. They don't have the education on it. Um, they just don't understand the premise of the conversations that you're having. And so that's why I wanted to take this stand. I'm so tired of just getting fucked over by people who could care less what fucking happens to me. And the reality is they could care less about what happens to you. And I think that weighs so much on me, and it feels, maybe like a burden sometimes, and then other times I feel like um I'm gonna fucking I'm gonna get into a thing, and I'm gonna change the world, and then we all want to do that, right? But the reality is, like, how do you do that? And I know there are people that share the interest, but you start to feel so alone because no one around you gives a fuck about the things you care about. And it's like, okay, you don't have to care. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say anyone needs to care about that shit, but you fail to realize the impact it'll have on your life at some point or another. Um, you fail to understand what it is that they're really doing behind closed doors, what they're really trying to take from you. And I think about my nephews and my nieces and the lives that they're gonna have. Hell, myself when I'm older, and I want everybody to have that ability to prosper, you know, the ability to get a house, get some land, have a family, do, travel, become cultured. Um, and I'm not saying that you should just get it. Like, there are people that say like, "Oh, you should just have the ability to have like a good life." No, you should work for it. Like, it should be something you work for. Like, you shouldn't have shit just fucking handed to you because that's dumb. That's fucking dumb. You don't appreciate it. At least 95, 99% of people aren't going to appreciate it. They're not going to recognize what they've been given. And then when they do, they'll go, well, where's the rest of it? You know, you can't give entitlements to people and then expect them not to just always take. They just take and they'll take and they'll take until there's nothing left, and then they'll move on to the next thing because you didn't earn it. You don't know what it feels like to go through the mud of it, come out the other side, and say like, "Shit, that sucked, but damn, I succeeded." Like so many young people just don't, and it's not entirely their fault. I mean, let's be realistic. The system has been fucked by the people in charge to the point where a lot of them can't become successful off just the basis of hard work. You need some things to go your way. And I'm not talking about being in the 1%, and most of us actually are in the 1%, but I'm talking about actually being successful, feeling successful in what you do, putting your mind to something and being like, damn, I got really good at this fucking thing. I got real good at this specific thing that I trained for, I studied. They told me if I did, I would. Like, you know, and then you're putting so many people behind the eight ball. And you wonder why depression and suicidal ideations are up, and then the SSRIs. And it's like all of this stuff, man. It's just fucking, it's like a lock. It just weighs you fucking down. You got, I don't know, just feels like this fucking metal harness that weighs 1,000,000 pounds. And you're just like, God damn it, I'm uphill every fucking day trying to run against this fucking thing. And yeah, I get a little stronger each step I take, but god damn it, if they don't keep trying to add weight to the vest, they just try to make that uphill climb just harder and harder. And if you ask your fucking parents, oh, they walked 20 miles in the snow that was up to their eyeballs to fucking get to school. Everybody knows that story. My mom had a boyfriend when we were kids, and he was like, I would play in raw sewage. Like, yeah, right, bitch, you'd have cancer. That's probably why your breath smelling like shit. But realistically, they did probably work really hard to get where a lot of people worked really hard to get where they want to be. But the problem is the politicians never gave a fuck. It was just the system worked itself out. The system was built good by the founding fathers and then built upon by some people. But eventually the system gets co-opted to the point where it no longer can serve the people and their interests anymore. You get to a point where you can't keep printing money. You can't keep debasing the currency. Um, and it's like money shouldn't be everything, but it's the only thing anymore, right? And so what do you do with that? I mean, how do you keep yourself going when it seems like the only thing you should care about is money? Um, I had my boss yesterday. Like, dog, I'm about to work like 8 or 9 days in a row so I can get the day off after Christmas because I don't have any PTO at my new job. And he's trying to offer me 200, 300 extra dollars on the day, which sounds like a lot, I'm sure, but brother, I need the day off. I need time to recharge. I need my sanity and sanctity within my home to feel like the next 8 days are going to be doable. There's just not, money shouldn't be that thing that sacrifices your health. Money shouldn't be that thing that sacrifices your emotional availability and stresses you the fuck out. And it's like, oh, I gotta work until I die so that I can fucking afford to have a decent life for my family. It's like you should be able to get to a certain point where you have a sustainable living. Now, should you stop striving to be great at what you do? No, I don't necessarily believe that. And I think that most people would argue you should never stop striving to be better, no matter what it is, whether it's a personal growth or it's a, um, career field or it's an intellectual growth, whatever you are looking at. I don't think you should ever stop pursuing it. um but as far as being able to take care of yourself, there should be a point in which you don't have to put everything on the line all the time. And the reality is we're all two paychecks away from, and some of us are just like a paycheck, like 1 week without food and you're fucked. I shouldn't say food. 1 week without money and you got no food and then you're fucked. And it's just so bad right now for people trying to build themselves up. And there's ways to combat against it. I had a 401k, I've got an IRA, I've got these things. But the funny thing is, it's all contingent upon you keeping your job. and the other thing is you never know how much you're gonna like your job until you get into it. You can't the first week doesn't tell you. Hell, the first 3 months you're probably not gonna know if you like the job. Usually about 6 months to a year, you're like, I could do this long term, or there's no way I could do this long term. And then it plays into your insurance, your ability to take care of your health, and then we're looking at what the food is providing, and I think I'm talking about all this stuff, and I think that, like, these are the thoughts that swim in my head and the information I learn, and I think that's why this emotional, like, devastation that I feel of, like, just constantly fighting this uphill battle of not only waging war against information, but waging war against people that have so much more influence than I do, and you just try to tell people around you, and people don't wanna fucking hear it. And it's like, I get it, man, this shit's uncomfortable, don't get me wrong. Your food's poison? Fuck, dude, what do I eat? Well, there's ways to look into that. The politicians don't care about you, and no policy will ever be made to benefit you. Well, that fucking sucks because you voted, didn't you? And if you didn't vote, that means you don't believe in the system anyway. But you get taken for a ride constantly. Property tax, we're taxed out the ass. We pay like 62% of the money we make in taxes. They're taking your livelihood from you, and I just watch it every day, and it's like, oh, at the end of the day, it's like, what am I having for dinner? What am I having for dinner? And meanwhile, all my freedoms and shit are slowly eroding from out beneath me, and I'm just trying to figure out what I need to fucking eat to survive. And it's just like, God damn, can I get a chance to get a fucking foot ahead that doesn't require me to sacrifice all of my sanity? I have friends who make a lot of money in high stress jobs that demand a lot of their time, and are they fulfilled by it? Hell no. Nobody's fulfilled by just money. You need purpose, like I talked about earlier. But, my brother specifically works way more than he probably should, in my opinion. And he makes good money because of it. But it's like, fuck. At the end of the day, are you gonna look back and go like, glad I worked all those hours and didn't spend them with my family, or spend them working on myself, or spending them doing a thing that I fucking like? Finding a hobby or something that can give me purpose and fulfillment and joy. Nope, I was glad to be fucking working. And don't get me wrong, there's people that are workaholics. There's people that like work. They like their work. And I get that. That's totally fine. And if that's what you really truly enjoy doing, that's what you should be doing. But I'd say 90% of us don't we aren't like that. We don't get to be in the thing that gives us that feeling. You know? And we do all the retail therapy to try to make yourself feel better. You buy a new thing and you go, "Ooh, this new thing will make me feel good." And it's all momentary. It's all fleeting. And it's all just fucking sad and depressing. And it's like I sit here with this, and it's almost I wonder sometimes if emotionally it's just too much. Like, do I have too much information? Do I have too much outside perspective? And I look at this and I think, like, I don't have enough people that give a shit. And that's just the thing. You don't have to do something drastic. We could all just not pay our taxes. This one year, nobody files a return. Nobody, or if you do, everybody who owes money on a return doesn't pay it. And then what are they going to do? They're going to arrest everybody? We don't have enough space in prison to arrest millions of people who don't pay their taxes. It's just the kind of thing that leaves you feeling lonely at night. Thinking about all this shit and going like, I swear to God, I feel like I'm the only motherfucker who cares. And you're not. You hear the people who care, and their voices are bigger than yours, and their influence is pushing people, and you feel it trending in the right way, and you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Like, you know, I don't agree with everything Nick Fuentes says, but he's got a lot of good fucking points that he makes. Dave Smith, a lot of good fucking points. Scott Horton, Daryl Cooper, they all have really good fucking points to make about the way the system runs. You know, but all of us live in that 6 foot space. All of you live in that bubble. A little bubble, and all this shit and all my thoughts are floating out fucking here, and I'm over there, and my mom needs me, and my brother needs this, and my wife needs that, and I gotta take my kids to soccer practice, and then all of a sudden it's been 20 fucking years. They took away 10 different civil liberties from you, and now your kids have way less of a future than you ever did. Your kids can't afford a house. You better hope that you can give them yours, you know. And then they pin us against each other. And I'm like, bro, I'm not mad at you because you want to have purple hair and chop your wiener off. I think it's weird, but that's not why I'm upset. I'm upset because you think that my fucking tax money should provide for your life. Hey, newsflash, asshole. No. Okay? My tax money should benefit me. And you should go get a job. And there should be a job available for you. That's also another thing. Job market's absolutely dog shit. IT cutting jobs, finance sector cutting jobs. Like all that shit is tough. Why? Because it's always about making more money with the corporations. It's the money, the evil, the money, the evil. It's all back and forth. And it all just leads back to feeling like, where does it stop? Does it ever stop? And this is like, I'm not going to get too deep into it because I want to do a whole episode on Christianity and things. But, you understand the desire to believe in that because there's got to be some retribution. There's got to be a way to feel like these people get what's fucking coming to them. And there's got to be a way for us to succeed. There's got to be a way for the good natured individual to have success and be taken care of and be able to provide for themselves. I'm sorry, socialism isn't the answer, and straight conservatism is not the answer, and liberal democracy is not the answer. It's some kind of system of all that includes elements of everything that's based around the constitutional republic that we have. And I guess I'm just talking this out loud because it's like this is the shit that like prevents you from crying because you're just so overwhelmed by it. If you listen to it all the time, it just sucks you dry. But it's like I'm addicted to being informed, I think. I'm addicted to knowing what's fucking going on. And so I'm just like so many other people, I have no idea how to turn the screens off. Video games are the escape, but I don't know how to turn off the screens. So I don't know. I know there's people that feel like this, but I don't know how many people feel like this. And I just feel like I sit in my house and I go kind of I go crazy. Sitting here just thinking about shit. And then I can't even fucking cry because I'm so emotionally stunted because I'm like, what the fuck are we supposed to do about it? Am I just supposed to let it keep happening like everybody else does? Like, what? You know? I don't know. I don't know. And that's what I'll leave you with. I'll leave you with I don't know because I don't. And maybe all together we could figure it out, but I don't know if we can all get together. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it for any of the 10 people that'll probably see this, maybe less. As always, stay informed. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Bye.